Futurist is a term that came to our attention in civilization about over 100 and some odd years ago in Italy. There's a school of art that tried to modernize everything, and the people who did this art were called futurists. And unfortunately, the term in Italy then became in English futurism. I'm not in favor of the word futurism because it sounds like an ideology, and what's true, what's false, what's in, what's out, and what people kill over these ideologies. So I prefer the idea of keeping the term futurist, but not keeping the term futurism. I prefer futures research if you're using a method, or future studies if you're not, and you're just keeping track of everything. Now, what is a futurist? Futurist is everybody to some degree. That's how our brain works. You know, what's going on, what might happen, and I take this bus rather than that bus because of these alternative futures. So we're all futurists in that simple sense. But in the sense of a professional futurist, they should be using some method, some way of organizing information to take a look at possibilities of the future, to make us basically smarter. If somebody gets to another location faster than you, and they say, wow, you were smart. You figured to go there instead of that. Well, why were you smart? You were smart because you thought ahead, you saw the alternatives. So part of futures research is to make us smarter. If I ask you a question, who is the president of France? So much neural activity in your brain happens. Who was the president of France before? So much neural activity happens. If I say, who's going to be the next president or two presidents, more neural activity goes on. More neural wiring goes on. You have to pull more together. So part of the futurist is to use method to make you smarter about things today. And part of our job is to make the future more real for others. Now, what are futurists doing? They're doing that. They are taking a variety of images, a variety of methodologies, a variety of data, and working with people to open up their minds to what's possible. For example, when landmines were first created, we had no way of turning them off from a distance. Now we have children blowing up their limbs and legs. As you view this, they're dying right at this moment because we did not have a way to turn it off. Nanotechnology may be producing new kinds of things. So we've actually did a study to show what kind of knowledge we need now so that nano weapons that are created either for us or against us or by us or by whatever method they're created or for whatever purpose, that there's a way to turn them off at a distance so we don't make the same mistake. So one of the things futurists do is we use history, but at the same time we use it to say, how could things go wrong? And here's how you might prevent that. And here are things that are possibly that can go right that you're not taking advantage of. So part of our idea is to open up the mind to make new decisions and to make you smarter. What are some things that I like and some of the work that I do? The Millennium Project is a global futures research system of 50 nodes around the world. A node is a group of individuals or institutions that identify leading minds in their area and contribute to futures research that we do. Then they also translate the state of the future. We do an annual State of the Future report. We also produce the Futures Research Methodology series, which is about 1,300 pages of 39 chapters, largest compendium of methods ever put together. And we also put all this together into a collective intelligence system. We call it Global Future System. That we update this material with many people around the world and try to make an ongoing collective intelligence, more or less like how our brain works. You've got a lot of inputs, and you associate the reasoning, and your mind emerges from all of that activity. So collective intelligence on a global basis for futures, we're trying to help it emerge on a global basis. This is a long-term project, but I think we've made a good deal of progress on it so far. People can actually go to the site and skim around the surface and see what's there. Now, some of my own personal interest in futures research is conscious technology. How can you make a good synthesis of the human consciousness and global technology? The mystics throughout all the times talked about the oneness of humanity and how we're all going to have this consciousness together. Well, we're getting there. We're getting there. But at the same time, we're also having the Internet of Things and this artificial intelligence people worry may take over and go beyond us. So how do we make those two seemingly quite different phenomena into a continuum, less like we have time and space as a continuum? How can we make consciousness and technology a continuum in a good way? I think that's the direction that we're heading to in general, but there's no guarantee that it's going to be good. You can have mind hacking and all kinds of negative scenarios. So in my own view, if we can take the best of the mystic attitude and the technocratic knowledge and put those two things together, then we'll have a better go at it. Right now, the biggest prejudice, I think, in the world is between the mystic-oriented and the technocratically oriented. Each one thinks they're superior to the other, which I think is nonsense. Each is important. If you're going to have a party, you want to go to a party of a bunch of mystics, not a bunch of technocrats. But if the plumbing breaks down in the building, you want to go to the technocrats, not the mystics, right? So how do we get these two sides of our own mind, these two sides of our global civilization, into a nice harmony? And I wrote a book about this some years ago called Future Mind, about how that can happen. Now, before that happens, though, we have to create a collective intelligence in humanity. So that's a hard job, and we're in the process of doing that, and anybody can take a look at it. It's the 3 W's dot themp.org, and you can skim around, and if you got some ideas in it, happy to have it. Have a happy future.